Hey, and welcome to this quick demo of Datafy. I'm going to show you around the UI and the CLI so that you get a feeling of what it will look like. So if you log into the UI, the first thing you see is the environments page. In this case, in this demo project, there is a dev and a production environment. You can create as many environments as you like, and it isolates your workloads between environments. So it's nice to test. If you go to a dev environment, you can see all the jobs that I've run here. You can look at the logs and at the metrics of these jobs. You can scroll down to the next page if you will. And if you're interested in a particular run, you can also, I click here, I see all the logs of that run. I can go to the metrics, I can see how much memory and CPU it has consumed. So it gives me, for each environment, it gives me a good overview of all the tasks that are running in that environment. What is the status, like succeeded or failed? What are the logs, what are the metrics? If there's a Spark UI running, can I look at the Spark UI? Why I can also see the bigger picture of which projects are actually deployed in those environments. So all the task runs are linked to a project. So here I can see there's quite a lot of projects deployed in the development environment, as you would expect. But then if you go to production, you actually see that there's only four projects deployed in production, right? And then I can, if I'm interested in that, I can check out the Airflow DAG of the production deployment. I can switch on DAGs on and off, so I can look at this demo DAG, for instance. It will be triggered in a minute. And then I can also see like the task executions being executed here, and I can follow up on those. If you look at a particular project, you get some project description, some metadata. You can link it to a Git repository. You can also see where each project is deployed. So in essence, the Datafy UI should give you a high-level overview of which projects have you defined, where are they deployed, what is their status, can I look at each task run, can I look at the completion rate of each task, can I look at the data pipelines itself through Airflow. This should all be possible in the UI. Now the exciting bits happen in the CLI. So if I want to use Datafy in the CLI, it looks very similar to the UI in terms of logic. Of course, it looks different, but you get a list of all the projects. It's the same projects that what you saw on in the UI, and the same for the environment. You get a list of the environments. If I now want to add a new environment, let's say the demo env environment, I run a script like this, and the demo environment is being created. This will create, if I go back to the UI, if I refresh here, you see that it's creating a demo environment. It will take a few minutes. When it's done, I will have a clean Airflow instance where I can schedule my jobs isolated from all the other environments. So I can do my tests in there, I can play around a bit. When I'm confident, I can move it to development. And then when I see that in dev everything is working, I can deploy to production. So the same with projects. Let's say I want to create a new project. I just say, hey, Datafy project, start a new project name called demo project, and follow a template. So we offer a bunch of templates out of the box with Datafy, so you don't have to start from scratch. What we see companies also do is create their own templates. And a template essentially tells the entire organization how you build code, where you put your source, where you put your test, which Docker images you use, how do you find data pipelines, maybe you use code scanners, whatnot. You can put all of that in a template. Also integrations with third-party tools like SageMaker or Databricks or Snowflake. You can put all of that in a template so that every project you do, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. In this case, it's a very simple vanilla Python template. So it's going to ask me again for my project name, which Python module name, when would you like to start scheduling your jobs, how often do you want to run your jobs, do you like pip tools or pipenv, and how do you want to do role creation. In this case, it doesn't really matter, but we allow in Datafy, we allow the roles to be defined centrally, and then we enforce the roles that the central agency says, like you can run this project with this role, or we can allow each project to define their own role and their own permissions. It's a matter of preference for each organization. Anyway, what you see is there is a create pending for a project called demo project. So if I go into that project now, it created a folder on my local machine. We won't dive into all of this, but you'll see it created a source folder, it created a test folder, it created a Docker file, requirements.txt, so it has everything I need for a plain vanilla Python project, right? So I can now start, maybe I've already done some experiments in a notebook, I can now put them in modular bits and pieces in the code, I can start adding unit tests. And imagine you're done with that, and you say you're happy with the code you produce, you can say Datafy project build, What the build will do is it will take all your code, it will wrap it in a Docker container, and it will push it to a container registry. It also runs a few validations to make sure that your DAG is set up correctly. Here, I'll move myself to the right. Here you see that the code is being pushed already to a container registry, which runs in your cloud. As you know, Docker a bit, this first push always takes a bit because it pushes the entire image. Then if you change the code a bit, the next pushes will be much smaller, right? But you see in about a minute or so this is done. If I now want to deploy this project, I can say Datafy project deploy --env, I think we call it demo env, and I say wait until deployment is done. This deployment typically takes 2 minutes, and what happens behind the scenes is it takes this Python project that is already wrapped in a Docker container, it takes the Airflow DAGs that we defined as part of this template, and it will make sure it lands in the demo environment. When that is done, I can test it in the demo environment, see that it's all behaving as I expect it to behave, and then if I'm happy with it, I can promote the deployment from one environment to the other. So this should allow for very quick iterations that once you've done your code and you want to do a build and a deploy, the entire process should only take a couple of minutes. Of course, the quickest feedback loop is if you do local development and local testing, so you should still do a lot on your own machine, on your own development environment, but then once you really want to touch it, run it in an actual environment with actual data and actual security settings, we want to make it as quick as possible to deploy your code. So now if we go to the UI in the meantime, you see that the demo environment is being updated. There is no task executed yet because it's a clean environment that we created just a minute ago. You will see there is one deployment of the demo project, which is still fairly empty. I can add some descriptions here if I want. So this is a demo project. So this is for other people if they want to know more about my project. Where can they find me? What is the Git link to this project? So I'm Chris Peters. The team is the demo team, something like that, right? And maybe I have external docs somewhere that I want to point them to. Now we wait for a bit until the deployment is done. In the meantime, if we go back to the environments, demo environment, we click on Airflow, it says like scheduler does not appear to be running. Last heartbeat was received 4 seconds ago. That is because it is now updating our Airflow environment with the new DAG. So if I refresh a bit in a few seconds, you'll see the new DAG popping up, which belongs to this project. It's still not there. There it is. So the demo project, that's the project I just created. If I click on it, it is a very boring Hello World project. It's just one sample job. I can check out the code if I like. Actually, this is interesting because here we just say run this container operator on an MX Micro. An MX Micro is the smallest instance we have. We go all the way to MX 4 extra large, I think. And you only use the actual resources that you provision here. So if you don't provision any resources, there is nothing running. But then if you need to run a lot of big jobs in parallel, you can schedule many of these jobs and you can decide yourself how big you want the instance to be. So now let's turn on this DAG and then Airflow should be able to pick it up and see like it is going to run. At the same time, if I refresh the Datafy page, in the minute when Airflow has picked up the DAG, it should take up the run here, and it should start resulting in logs. So there it is, container. It's pending still, so it's ready. It is about to be scheduled, and then the moment it's scheduled, it's only a very brief job, so that there won't be much to see. So it will be done quicker than I can refresh, I guess. Pending means that it's now still provisioning the hardware it needs. This can only also, depending on the hardware that's still running, this can take a couple of minutes to get new hardware. But you see now the job has succeeded. I can look in the logs, and well, it's very boring. It just downloaded the weather info and says response 200, right? But this, in essence, is the flow of building and deploying a project on Datafy. Now, if I say I'm happy with this project and I want to promote it from let's say from demo env to dev, now it will take this container that I just deployed to the demo environment, and it will do the same thing on the dev environment, right? So if I now go back to the environments page, it's updating here. And the same story here, I can validate if my project is done correctly. If I like what I see, I can then deploy it to production. Yeah. And so here you see another more advanced project where we say, hey, this is a machine learning project where we don't do a bunch of pre-processing. We output the results to pig tables, which give us insights in how decisions are being made. Then there's a model train, then there's a model run. And you can, for each of these steps, you can decide how big or how small these projects are. How big or how small the resources are to run these projects. So that's it. That's a high-level overview of Datafy. So to summarize, it gives you a UI on which you can see all the environments you've created and all the projects that run in these environments. And then also gives you a CLI with some nice templating that allows you to quickly build and deploy new projects. There's a lot of more things happening behind the scenes, like security enforcement and fine-grained access control, but that's out of scope for this demo. Thanks for your time.